Do you have the aim of a potato? Do you wake up in a cold sweat every night wondering how the heck you missed that easy shot? Well, luckily, if you're looking to improve, you've come to the right place. My name is Nathan, and welcome to Blizzard Guides. Now, as you may know, Overwatch has two main types of weapons. There's Hitscan, where the bullets instantly travel to its target, and then there's projectile, which has travel time. McCree and Widowmaker are both Hitscan heroes because when you click, the bullet instantly travels to wherever it's over, and Junkrat and Pharah are both projectile heroes since you have to wait for the bullet to travel over time. Because of this, I'm going to split this guide into two parts, one for Hitscan and one for projectile. I'm going to give you two tips for the Hitscan as it really relies on raw reflexes and is simpler in its essence, and then I'm going to give you the three for projectile as that is just more common in Overwatch as well as more complex. And in terms of tracking weapons like Tracers, Zaryas, and Moiras, the first tip from the Hitscan category is really only going to apply, so keep that in mind. Now with that established, let's get into this guide. At number 5, I'm going to help you guys establish some core fundamentals about Hitscan aim. While Hitscan does react instantly, you're still not going to be instantly and perfectly tracking all the time. You still have to take time to move from wherever you're aiming to the target that you want to kill, and because of this, you're still going to have to predict where the enemy will be. Predicting the enemy's movement is both fundamental to Hitscan and projectile aim. However, Hitscan aiming does have a few different things to consider. With Hitscans, you don't have to consider where the enemy will be a few seconds ahead of where they are currently, rather you have to know in which direction they are headed and where they will be in the next fraction of a second. Also, you'll need to learn the animations of the game so that you can maximize your effectiveness. Because of this, it is important to learn to track the head animation of an enemy or their most common movement patterns, as this is going to be key when aiming as a Hitscan. There is a general 3-step process one should take when aiming. 1. Identify your target and what direction they are currently moving, whether that be left or right, falling or jumping, or moving towards you or away. 2nd, try and predict where they will be next, meaning if you see that they are jumping, you can expect them to travel in an arc, and if you see them strafing to the left, consider that they might change directions. Once you identify this, move on to the 3rd step, moving your reticle to the most stable movement in their animation and just firing.
Four man.
Mercy dead.
You're all anti. Get on the cart. Just run.
So in a jump, the apex or the highest point of the jump is going to be the most vulnerable position. If they're changing directions, that moment that they actually change direction is where they will reside the longest, as they will have to slow down to change directions, albeit for a short period of time. And if you're using a tracking weapon, you almost want to just continuously repeat this process, analyzing their direction, movements, and options for escape while somewhat ignoring the 3rd step. However, this 3-step process of identifying where they are, where they will be, and their most vulnerable movement is key to landing good shots. At number 4, we're going to be talking about where you should be aiming and the reasoning behind it. Now, it might seem like at first you would only ever want to aim for the head, but as it turns out, because of the inherent nature of the smaller head hitbox, with the exception of a few heroes, you actually don't want to always aim for the head. Ideally, you should always focus on aiming for the neck and flick upwards given a safer shot. However, if you do not believe that you're going to make the shot, or you are taking a more difficult angle such as a pop shot or around a corner, or a shot where both you and your target are moving in different directions, it is best to go for the most consistent body shot over the higher risk headshot. Because of this, when you aim, you always want to take a position that is either slightly higher than your target or on level with your target. When you are above the enemy or on high ground, you can more consistently aim for their head, as their body doesn't block any of their head hitbox. If you take the high ground, you're going to have to track up and down and left and right, but you're going to be able to take much easier shots as well as have a better view of where they are going to be. If you take shots that are on level with the enemy, you really only need to keep your aim at the head height and fire away. If they jump, you can track upwards, but I would really build the habit of keeping your aim level if you're going at the same height as your ally. This can really help keep your aim consistent, but it really just boils down to analyzing the risk versus reward of the shot that you're taking. If you know you're going to be able to get a few more shots off at an enemy, getting the body shots is okay, but getting headshots is significantly less punishing. Because of this, you want to go for headshots if you know that you're going to get more shots off afterwards. shields. If you miss the headshot, it's not necessarily punishing because you can still get a body shot afterwards, and if there are any allies nearby, they are going to be able to finish the enemy off. But if you're only able to get one shot off and you think that you have a chance to hit the headshot, you probably don't even want to go for the headshot and go for a body shot rather if your allies are nearby. Otherwise, the headshot might be more valuable because you aren't going to be able to finish them off if you get the body shot, and you'll only be feeding healer's ultimate. Risk versus reward on deciding the headshot versus body shot is most important. And one last tip, just always aim for the neck regardless of whether or not you're going for the body or a headshot. I said it earlier, but it's really something that you should reinforce. Aiming for the neck allows you to quickly flick upwards if you know that you're going to be able to get the headshot, but otherwise you can flick down and it's less risky to take the shot. At number 3, let's look at the fundamentals of projectile aim. Projectile is a funny one. There are actually 2 more subcategories. The fundamentals remain the same for both, but some of the mechanics are different, so you'll have to bear with me. The first type of projectiles are the slower ones, similar to Pharah and Junkrat's or Reinhardt's Fire Strike. They are more random in nature, as over the longer distances they become more and more inconsistent just because of the slow style of aim. The second and more common type of projectile is the type of fast-moving and very small hitbox projectiles, like Zen's orbs, Hanzo's arrows, or Torb's rivet gun. These types of fast-moving projectiles are more consistent, but they can or cannot have linear movement or arcing movement, just like the slower-moving types. Now, when it comes to aiming with projectiles, there are a few things that are most important to remember. One is that with the projectiles, you're going to have to be more aware of the surroundings of the enemy that you're firing at, and take into account threats that are being posed to the enemy, as well as protective cover, and really just get into the mind of the enemy that you're shooting at. If you can do this effectively, you're going to be able to become better at aiming with projectiles, as you'll be able to quickly figure out where they will be and land the hardcore around the corner prediction shots that are oh so coveted.
Didn't see that coming.
Being able to identify factors like pressure from allies' presence and nearby health packs are really good ways to land more predictive shots, both types included. In addition to this, you want to also make sure to know what type of movement abilities are available to the enemy so that you can learn where they might escape to, and thus be also prepared for that escape attempt should they enter low health. These 2 types of things are fundamental to both styles, but as you'll find here in a moment, there is slightly more to either style of projectile. At number 2, we're going to talk about the fast-moving projectiles. These are really tricky and arguably harder to learn than any other type of gun in the game. Not only do you have to analyze and identify the movement, escapes, and positions of the enemy, but you also have to know the animations and do the 3-step process described in step 1. Not only do you have to figure out where the enemy will be in the next moment, but you also have to get and understand where the animation will end up of the enemy to figure out where their head will be or their body will be, so that you can pre-fire your bullet to land in the correct spot several moments later. It gets really complicated, but as difficult as that sounds, your saving grace is that those are typically a lot larger than you would find with a Hitscan's bullet. Because of this, there's a style of aim that you'll find very common with upper level players and is a really good style to adopt now so that you can be ultra consistent with your fast moving projectiles. Essentially, you're going to want to watch the animation of the enemy with steady aim, tracking them somewhat so that your reticle will be over their body, and then flick over to where you have a strong idea of where they will be. As you're tracking, you're just going to watch their movement, and let's say if they jump, you know they're going to hit the ground in a specific location, and you can flick to have your reticle over where they will land, so that when you release and let the projectile travel, you will have the projectile arrive at their body. This loose tracking and then quick flick style of aim is most consistent, but it takes the most time to learn. I do strongly suggest, however, that you learn this method primarily, as it is the best in my opinion. At number 1, there's the slow-moving projectiles. This one is the most forgiving, but it requires some knowledge of escape abilities and enemy movement behavior to really maximize your aim. Like what I mentioned in number 3, you're going to really want to analyze the environmental factors affecting the target that you're aiming at, as this is really going to be the only way that you predict the enemy's movement. You're going to be flicking a lot more once you get this down, so that there isn't really any time spent lining up shots, but rather the time is spent towards getting all of your shots out of your gun. You should really figure out what animation the enemy is going through and how long it will take for your projectile to travel, and then just unleash it where you think they will remain the longest, in the hopes that you get the projectile in the most likely spot. It's very simple, but it's more of an intuition thing that takes time to develop. Practicing this is the best way to go, as there truly isn't really any secret sauce like there is with the Hitscan or fast moving projectiles. Generalize what types of players make what types of movement when, and really just focus on getting that consistency down as best as you can. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this guide. Really getting the fundamentals of aim down is the main thing you want to practice, so if you take these tips to heart while also adding your own spin to the aim, you'll be able to get more consistent and fluid aim in no time. But as with all things, that requires lots of practice, which can't be taught. This guide's purpose is to set you off on the right direction. If you have any questions about the game in general, you can always comment down below or tweet me on Twitter as well. And if you guys enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, you can subscribe below and turn notifications on by hitting the bell icon down below. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this specific video, as it really helps us know that you guys are enjoying our content. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a nice day. My name is Nathan, and this was Blizzard Guides.